All right, everyone. Welcome to Medicine Buddha Practice. Thank you so much for joining us um, today, wherever you are in the world. Uh, I am on Muskogee, Cherokee, and Creek land, right in Atlanta. And it is evening here on this land as well. So feel free to just, check in the chat about where you're from, where you're coming from. um, what else? Especially if you're new to I've been away for the past two sessions or so. So it's good to be back. I've been away in the UK, um, doing doing a little bit of teaching, but mostly I was called back to do some work with the land, um, some different pieces of land that I started actually earlier this year during my last trip to the UK. So a little land magic stuff that I've been working on that will actually hopefully be articulated in the book in New Saints too. So that writing will probably definitely be in the book. I've been really doing some intense work with earth energy, with different lands. Of course, land here, but also land in the UK. And I talked last year a lot about um, connecting to the land out in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona. Um, Talked a lot about that last year. That was a year ago, actually, that I was out there um, teaching and walking the land. Anyway, welcome to our practice. It's so really nice to be. And I also want to thank everyone who stepped in, our practice leaders as well, for holding space. And this, when our practice leaders step in, it's to support the community, and I hope that you showed up to support them as well. It's important to build a practice community where we can continue practicing even when I'm not able to be present for practice. So thank you so much. Beginning of the year in January, I'll introduce a new cycle uh, of practice, which is working more intensely with the mantra, with Medicine Buddhist mantra. So that will be really exciting as well. But we'll get to that in January as well. Also, check in to let me know how you're doing in general, like what's going on, what's up for you right now in the world. And the more we articulate what's up for us, the more that we can actually guide the energy of the practice to kind of tend to the things that we're kind of struggling with, be it fear, anxiety, or channeling energy to actually deal with the issues, to hold the issues that we're facing individually and collectively as well. So you can feel free to put that in the chat. Also ask a question. So you can put the questions in that link there, the box as well. And I see the prayer, the Google Doc for prayers have been shared as well. So go ahead and start adding prayers to that. As you see in the chat, we will be migrating back to Zoom in January. For those of you who are new, we ran away from Zoom when we got Zoom bombed. That was, I don't even remember when that was. It feels like a lifetime ago. I guess that was 2020, the end of 2020. So it's been 2 years since we got out of Zoom, but we're gonna go back as we feel pretty confident now that we can be on that platform. It's a lot easier to work with than Crowdcast. The only thing that we lose really is, well, a couple of things. One, reminders, email reminders about practice. And secondly, an archive of all the practices. So you see all the practices from the past 2 years or so archived, but we're migrating those teachings onto YouTube. So those will be accessible, which is a great amount of labor. So I want to thank Eric in particular, as well, and others who are helping with that migration. And it'll be good because I get to have more control around sharing things, and I want to incorporate more music and videos that can be really helpful and useful in supporting our practice. But I can't do that, with Crowdcast. What else? Thank you for everyone who joined me. If you're in this space tonight, everyone who joined me in Portsmouth in the UK last Sunday, for the one-day retreat. If you happen to come, that was really wonderful to meet with people. Again, this wasn't a huge teaching trip. It was more of a personal practice trip. So it was good seeing you all. I look forward to seeing some of you next week as well in Asheville for the one-day retreat on next Tuesday, and then the week retreat or the 3-night retreat, or 4 nights, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, 4 nights. 4-night retreat up at Southern Dharma as well. So it'll be fun. It'll be great. Hopefully next year I'll start doing more work. Definitely here in Atlanta in person. That's definitely going to happen, but around the South as well. We get some good Dharma happening down here. But anyway, my last event this year will be the Holiday Frolic, which is now an annual online retreat, one-day retreat on the 17th, on the solstice. I think it's the solstice. Is that the solstice? No, it's not. The 17th isn't the solstice. Solstice is after. It's 21st, 22nd. But anyway, December 17th, Saturday, December 17th. And the Holiday Frolic is, like, what's the way to talk about it? It's just like this really intense, it's really just me having fun with Christmas and then inviting people and asking them to pay money to watch me have fun with really cliche tropes of Christmas, right? That's really, really, really what it is. And I offer you the opportunity to pay to watch that. So that's what the frolic is. There will be costumes. There will be costume changes. There will be lots of music. There will be my annual book review for all the books that have come out. A lot of books that come out I tend to endorse. So we're going to be sharing all of those books in the frolic. Of course, we'll be practicing. You will also be experiencing for the 3rd year in a row. Now, this practice is older than the frolic. You will be experiencing my Christmas Carol practice. So I developed a guided journeying practice based upon Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, which is lovely, by the way. So that's going to happen as part of the day as well. Um, yeah, and it's going to be on Zoom. I invite everyone who will be on camera to wear their wonderful holiday sweaters. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. And we're just going to have fun. It's just fun. We're going to have fun. We're going to practice. One day, it may be in person. So maybe it'll be something we do in person. But like if I do it in person live, it would have to be way more intense to do it in person. Like I want to, have like special guests. Like it's like I want to do like a really my vision, and I'm uniquely positioned to pull this off. My vision is to like bridge like serious practice with a really campy queer drag queen burlesque scene. I mean, do you follow me? Like if you go, like I used to do this more before the pandemic, but I would go, it's a weird thing. I don't watch RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't know. I don't watch RuPaul's Drag Race, but I will go to a live show for one of the show's queens in a heartbeat. So I've gone to a couple of the shows. One that I remember is Ben Del Cream, and that whole vibe that the queens do when they branch out and start doing shows. Like that's the idea, but it's going to be like meditation as well. Um, so we'll see. We shall see what happens with that in the future. So anyway, that's a holiday frolic, and that's everything until the beginning of the year. I am in the last stretch of finishing New Saints, so that will be done at the beginning of the year, and I'll be dropping off and taking some time off, not from Medicine Buddha, but from a lot of things after Christmas to finish the draft. So once that's finished, after New Year's, we're going to be back in full swing with programs and everything. What else? Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's it for me. So you have all the documents there. And let's start. Let's begin with lighting our candle for practice. And again, when we do candle work, when I do candle work is always particularly powerful right now as we're like moving. This is a season of light, right? It's a season of darkness, that brings our attention to the importance of light, but also to the importance of darkness. And so we're journeying through the long night, right? As we start nearing solstice. So when we light the candle, we're just remembering our appreciation for the light and what the light offers us, but we also understand that darkness is important as well as a teacher as well. But I light the candle also to call into the space clarity, love, compassion, care. It reminds us that no matter how confusing and disrupting and chaotic things get, there's still a level of clarity that we can take refuge in. And so sometimes I like to imagine that the flame from a candle begins to awaken in my heart center. So I feel that warmth in my heart. So again, just letting the light, this flame begin to awaken in the heart center. And we're not doing anything else right now, but just imagining that flame, this flame, awakening in our heart center right here. And you can, some of us can see that clearly in our minds. Some of us can feel that. But what's most important is not to feel or to see it, but to believe that that light, that flame is awakening in the heart center. And that that flame begins to slowly radiate throughout the body. And this is a really powerful way for those of you who are practicing Tara and the mother practice, which we'll get back into next year in January. Tara and the mother. But this awakening of light in the heart center radiating into the body, we begin to radiate light. That's a mother practice, right? It's Tarama, right? Tara as the star, particularly the northern star, right? That's always fixed, always same location in the sky, radiating, right? The North Star being the foundation, the root of so many disciplines of like nautical sailing traditions and magic traditions, astrology, astronomy, the North Star, for instance, which guided my ancestors to freedom once they left and ran away from the plantation as they escaped. That is the energy of Tara, to light the way to freedom. And what we're doing is beginning to embody that light, just with a simple belief, with a simple thought that I am the light. Right? What does that feel like to say to yourself repeatedly, I am the light? right? I am the light. I am the light. I am like Tara Ma, the great mother. I am radiating this light, this openness, this joy, this love into the darkness, the chaos of what we're experiencing right now. And sometimes this is my practice, right? It's just like imagining this light, letting it radiate through my body, because in doing this practice, also, we're beginning to ignite, awaken the subtle energy body, or what we call the light body, the energy, life force energy, Lung, Chi, right? I am the light. So again, we're not doing anything except sitting in the lights. Sit in the lights. It's simple. It sounds easy, but this is really a profound practice that we're engaging in, because we're shifting a narrative in our mind from always investing in these messages of how I am not the light, that I am confused, I am the expression of confusion, of chaos, you know. And we begin to shift into a new narrative which says, I am actually clarity. I am actually guiding and illuminating paths of freedom. And we walk through and move through spaces where we're constantly being projected on, and those projections are never mirroring back our goodness, our light. We're often having to survive the mirroring of, our darkness, or darkness in the sense that we're no one ever reflects back to us our goodness necessarily in public places. People are just kind of reflecting on us, their fear, insecurity, which tags our fear and insecurity. So it's really hard to survive moving through spaces, right? And I never understood that until I had the experience of someone, another teacher, another Lama, sitting with me and having this experience of this teacher reflecting back goodness. And I was so confused. I'd never really experienced that before, but how this teacher was actually finding the goodness in me and giving it back to me, saying, oh, here's the good, sweet part of you that I want to offer to you. Right? And you can only do that with others when you have tapped into your own light and goodness. So you're able to hold that and then reflect that back to people around you instead of always reflecting back to people their bullshit, which can be enjoyable and fun. Do not get me wrong, but that's not how we're going to survive, in community. Not that, there is always a place for feedback, critique, and whatever, but there has to be more space just for us to see the goodness in each other. But you can't see the goodness in someone else until you're in relationship to the goodness within you. And this light practice is one of the ways that we get to this inner goodness. And by saying that we are the light. It's kind of a warm-up for practice, for the main practice. I've been thinking about, again, spiritual warfare, which will be the major theme of practice across all of my practice communities next year. And so much of spiritual warfare, which is this is spiritual warfare. It's local social warfare, but beneath that is spiritual warfare. Right? And that kind of warfare is this ancient, primordial tension, which is the tension that arises from the constant balancing of light and dark, these polarities in the universe, and light and dark. And there's a tension, particularly when we find ourselves in I call it's in samsara. But when we find ourselves, in my mind, I think of samsara. One way I think of samsara is the dream. Like, this is a dream, right? And this dream is carceral, which means that it is the state of being bound or trapped or held or kept. Right? So samsara is this expression of carcerality, incarceration. Right? But in this state, there's also the illusion of the imbalance of light and dark. And that's what we're feeling. We're feeling into this collectively, the imbalance, right? Because what we're trying to do is come back into balance right now. There can't be too much light. There can't be too much dark. It has to be balanced, right? And when we transcend this dream like we transcend back into the truth of things, right? That ultimately there's no light or dark. Ultimately, there's no such thing as light and dark in the ultimate state. But in this state, there is light and dark. And so spiritual warfare is the tension that arises from this balancing and the beings and the forces and the energies that are positioned within this tension on the side of light or the side of dark, right? And the choices that we have to make, to choose what side we're on. This is like old archetypal trope stuff that you see in everything from, dare I say, The Matrix on to Star Wars and whatever, everything, basic everything. There's always this basic struggle between light and dark, which in a Buddhist sense is the struggle between clarity or wisdom and delusion or ignorance. So clarity or lack of clarity is what we're struggling with, because when we're not clear, then we're often violent, expressing violence, doing violence, creating harm. However, when we're too much in the light, then we lose a sense of the place of darkness. We lose, there are people who are so intensely positive. Some of you may be those kinds of people. People are just super positive, right? They're so positive that it's hard to be in a relationship to them because it's like they're bypassing or erasing the reality of delusion or struggle or the opposite of clarity, right? And what we're trying to do is, yes, embody that light, that positivity, but we're also staying in relationship to the darkness, because that's how we balance the practice and the work moving through the carceral state of samsara, right? I have a whole chapter on this in New Saints, which is real intense. Sharon is about Papa Lekpa, so I think I told you. Or Papa Lekpa is one of the characters emerging in that chapter where I'm examining this very same thing. Like, how do we choose both light and dark, right? And in that choosing, develop an agency that helps us to hold space for both. And we have to hold space for everything. We can't push anything away. We can't grab on to stuff. We just have to hold everything, right? And that means that we have to let go of our attachment to the light, and we have to let go of our aversion to the dark. And once both these polarities come into balance, there's a truth that reveals itself about the nature of reality itself. You can't, you'll never experience the true nature of things when you're lost in aversion and grasping, right? Because your energy is siding or being channeled into one of these activities, which makes it almost impossible for that energy to be expansive, right? Just to be. And once you're just being, once awareness is just present, just being, then the nature of everything begins to reveal itself. You begin, in an insight vipassana process, you begin to peer sense into the nature of things, right? But that begins with shamatha, calm abiding, where we're learning how to hold everything And then and then once everything is held, we're not distracted. And so the reality of things begins to come into focus. So I think so much of our work too is about letting go of our fear of the dark, what the dark is and what the dark means for us. To hold both light and dark. And this is what Papa Lekwa has taught me in my practice. With him. You know, there are many questions, and one of those questions is, you know, what is my darkness? What does the darkness mean to me? What is my darkness? I think one of the things that will really nail people, and actually from the very beginning of New Saints, is the treatment of darkness. Like that's one of the core things, is my personal relationship to darkness and what I've had to do to go into those places. Like both in my experience, right, to go into the anger, to go into the despair, sorrow, and sadness, to go into appetite, to go into lust, to go into craving, right, to go into consumption, you know. But then there is also the real bare bones ground reality of evil as well, because this is a part of it. There is real evil, right? And how do you deal with that? And what is evil, right? There are literally actually demonic forces that are extremely opposed to the light, right? And who that have been and are responsible for tremendous amounts of suffering in this world. Like how do you how can you position, how can you be in relationship to even those forces, and what do you need to do that, right? And this is where it begins. Like I have to start believing in the light, that I can hold the light, that I'm a light bearer, right? And how this light begins to attune me to these higher frequency beings who act as guardians and guides that embody the light, and that we can channel their energy, their power, their insight into our minds and bodies, you know, and we can embody that and have this protection, I guess, in a way to say it, protection, as we move deeper into these expressions of darkness. Like I'm not afraid of the dark like I used to be. because I understand the nature of light and also understand the value of darkness now. That ultimately all this is just an illusion. And again, I want to emphasize again that in this in this practice of light, we can connect to any being of light, the mother, right? Expressions of the mother, expressions of the father, expressions of, any being in these higher frequencies, right? Because light is a higher frequency, darkness is a lower frequency of energy. So when I'm like right now, like what I'm doing is just sitting, this light is radiating in my body. I feel this light as energy, right? I feel that energy radiating from my body. Like I can feel it. Like just I can feel it. Feels like if you could, if I were to like visualize this, it would feel like steam rising from my hands because that's how it feels. The energy is just like feels like steam rising, right? A lot of heat. And just from this point, this stage, I'm just resting in this experience of energy light, or light energy. And you don't have to do anything else, right? I mean, this is really fundamental, basic work, but this is also like extremely important, powerful work at the same time. And this is the thing that like always blows me away is that like some of the most profound advanced practices, start here. Like it doesn't have to start with a lot of spells and, and grids and, mantras and mandalas, or altars or whatever we're using in the work, right? It just begins with this belief that I am the light, right? And this is what I call mind magic. Like this is just like this fundamental level of how I'm training my mind to tune into something that is already happening. So like, yeah, I'm telling you to tune into the light, but you're already light. Like you have the energy body that's already lit, right? To certain, we all are at different levels with the intensity and the awakening of our light bodies, but the light body is still there for all of us, right? So we're just actually tuning into the frequency of our light bodies and letting that kind of grow and radiate. So our awareness is like fuel that we kind of throw into a fire. It's the wood, it's, whatever, that feeds the fire, right? So when I turn my attention into the energy body, it just begins to grow. So I feel heats. I'm feeling getting warm now. And this is Tumo as well. Like Tumo isn't, now here I go again, right? But like Tumo isn't this like super intense, magical, mystical thing. It's just awareness and where we place our awareness and how we hold our awareness. That's really what it is. Right? I think so often in Tantra traditions, like people make things so complicated because they actually don't know how to talk about it. They actually don't know how to explain the practice. I would argue that they're actually aren't even doing the practice right. um, you know, so my questions have always been, what's really happening in a practice? Like, is it that complicated? And it's usually not that complicated. It's usually just about awareness, right? And training and awareness. And as this light, this energy grows around you, I want you to imagine that you're attracting, calling into the space your benefactors, your seven homecomings, right? If you're practicing seven homecomings, but all your guides, your benefactors, all beings of light are gathering in and around you. This is the basis of how I practice this kind of spiritual warfare. I have to gather, you know, my guides, these entities, beings vibrating on higher frequencies. So gather your benefactors. And if you're new to this, just opening your mind and saying, welcome to any being who loves me, who wants me to be free and well and safe, resourced. Any being who wants that for me, welcome. Any being who doesn't want that, you're not invited. Period. Right? And you can just live your life like that, you know, as Alanis Morissette used to sing, uninvited, you know, you're uninvited, which is a wonderful song, Uninvited. What does she say? But you're not allowed. You're uninvited. So part of this kind of spiritual warfare work is like getting clear about what I need and what I don't need. And if I don't need certain things because I know that they are not conducive to my awakening, my health, I have to uninvite them. I say no. This is one of the first things I say in New Saints. You have to learn to say no to the forces that don't want you to be free. So again, calling your benefactors into the space they're gathering around you, filling the space that you're in, and just feeling, noticing, experiencing them. I want to move into our first mantra, Minasange Kino Soha, right? To start really, summoning, calling in the consciousness of Medicine Buddha to hold the container for this. So we're going to ask Medicine Buddha just to hold the container for this light, right? To contain this light for us. So the mantra is right in the chat. Menma Sange Kino Soha. Medicine Buddha, I pray that you know and look upon me. Again, Kino can be translated as anything that you need. So it means to know. So Medicine Buddha, please know me. But sometimes I need Medicine Buddha to do more than know me. I need Medicine Buddha to think of me, to move within me. Medicine Buddha, please hold me. Medicine Buddha, please heal me. Medicine Buddha, please heal my loved ones. Please heal the world. Please heal the land. Right? We can even pray, for Medicine Buddha to go ahead and get a biopic of the Golden Girls together, because everyone else is getting a biopic. So the Golden Girls deserve one as well. I'm just putting that out there. It's more of a little selfish magic there. So as we begin, we're going to chant this just a few times. But feeling the awakening of the consciousness of Medicine Buddha in this space, Minla Sangye. Of course, Medicine Buddha is an expression of all beings associated with healing, all deities, worldly and celestial deities, all people, physical people, beings in the form world who are associated with healing. Medicine Buddha is actually an expression of all these beings who are trying to heal, and healing in this context means bringing back into balance. Right? So Medicine Buddha becomes an expression of the healer that feels more appropriate for you. So it's not like you just have to sit and pray and to this image of Medicine Buddha, which is, Medicine Buddha is actually right to the left of me here, hanging out. But Medicine Buddha becomes the healer, the archetypal healer for us. And every time I work with a lot of healers, to get support and treatment from healers, when I'm working with healers, I am tuning into how Medicine Buddha, how they're channeling Medicine Buddha in the moment. So again, Umela Sange Kino Soha, we'll begin. Om Umela Sange Kino Soha. Om Umela Sange Kino Soha. Om Menla Sange Hino Soha. So I'm praying for Medicine Buddha to arise for you in a way that's appropriate for you and where you're at, from the cultures and communities that you come from. And right now, Medicine Buddha is actually expressing themselves as the grandmothers, and the grandmothers in different traditions, spiritual, indigenous traditions. Grandmothers hold so much of the lineage of healing and transformation. Right? The mother of the mother, right? They hold the wisdom, the knowledge, the lineage in so many cultures. And they held it in many more cultures until the rising of patriarchy in different parts of the world. So I feel the healing of the grandmothers arising, holding space. And the closer you are to indigenous practice, again, whatever indigenous practice means to you, the more you often will be connecting to the energy of the grandmothers. And that's a whole, maybe I'll get into that in the future. There's a whole lineage, well, not a lineage necessarily, but a whole set of practices that can be quite transformative, that are transformative, actually. But how is Medicine Buddha showing up for you right now? What does Medicine Buddha look like, feel like? Who are the healers that are showing up for you right now? So we're going to begin to transition into our main mantra. And as you can chant along, you can just listen, whatever. But in the practice, continuing to allow Medicine Buddha as the healer to arise in the space, feeling the connection to all your benefactors, and allow yourself to just sit in the light. We'll do this for a couple of minutes, then we'll offer prayers. Then we'll come back and do a little more mantra to close up for the evening. Just let the light shine. Begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ana begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Te ada begenze, begenze, ma begenze, razo sumunga tesoa. Deata umbeyenze beyenze mabeyenze razumangatizoa 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 Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. Deata Om Begenze, Begenze, Ma Begenze, alles und dann alles so. So we'll return our attention to the prayer requests. If you're still writing, just take a few moments. Go ahead and just finish jotting down those prayers. And tonight, I wanted to do a little bit of a special acknowledgement. And let me just get to the prayers myself. So I had, I'm sorry, I keep touching the mic. Years ago, I have a dear friend, who some of you may know from earlier songers that I was a part of, named Fanny. And her mother was a survivor of Auschwitz, of Holocaust Auschwitz, Polish. And I had a chance to spend some time with her. Her name is Etta Mittelberger. I had some time, she was in her late 90s back then, but I had some time to sit with her. And, last week she passed. She was 100. She was 100 years old. And so I want to start just by offering prayers for Etta and her transition into the Bardo, into the spirit world, and for the transition of so many beings who have survived genocide and incarceration and political totalitarian abuse. And those beings are still in the spirit world, still in the Bardo. Many are still earthbound as well, and still struggle to move through the trauma of having survived something intensely violent and traumatic. So I want to just start by first start by calling into the space again, just to reaffirm the presence of all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dharma protectors, all angels, spirits, guides, beings of light, all the elements as well, all the protectors of the land that we're living and practicing on. We call them into the space to hear and hold our prayers. And I'll offer prayers for Etta as she transitions into the Bardo, and for all beings transitioning to the Bardo who have been the victims of injustice and violence. And I continue to pray for all beings in the spirit world and earthbound spirits whose trauma from the violence that they couldn't survive, that trauma that keeps them from transitioning further into higher states of being, that trauma is healed through the blessing and the consciousness of Medicine Buddha and all awakened deities as well. And we continue to offer prayers for Michael Sanford, who is in hospice care now. May he have a conscious, peaceful death and transition, and prayers for his family and loved ones. For Debbie, who is likely living through some of her last days in this realm and is suffering from deep sickness and discomfort, may she be released from pain. Offering prayers for Dr. Nicole as she transitions to her new and challenging role at the hospital, for Mandy, who is struggling with health and spirit, for Mara, that she receives as much good as she offers out to the world, for Richard, working to maintain sobriety, offering prayers of gratitude for Lama Rod's guidance and support the Medicine Buddha practice all these many months, offering prayers for all as she transitions into the bardo, offering prayers for A's family as they deal with her recent diagnosis of Alzheimer's. We're offering prayers for my son and his wife as they struggle financially and with addictive substances. Help me find my place as a mother to give loving support that will help but maintain my boundaries. Offering prayers for me as I struggle with food habits that are harming my health. All the babies, offering prayers for all the babies around the world who are not warm, who are not fed, who are not safe. Places in me and in each of us where our inner infant did not receive the love and care we needed. We're offering prayers and gratitude for Mama Aisha, for Auntie Sharon, for Karen, and all the Chrome Divas. I have yet to commit names to memory. Yes, the Chrome Divas. Prayers of protection, correction, and connection, and deep fulfillment for my queer, autistic, loner teenage girl. Prayers that I may soften my heart and stop fighting. Prayers for all the storytellers, healers, and artists that they may be supported and loved in their creation. Prayers for my relationship with my mother. May we see each other with compassion, forgiveness, and grace. Prayers of gratitude for the Sangha and for Lama Rod. Prayers that I receive guidance with my vocations such that I have room to give abundantly and also be released from the drag on my spirit with my current vocational situation. For Randa and everyone who has chronic pain, may they find ease in their bodies. Prayers for all those sleepwalking through their lives, not suspecting that their mate might be more beyond what they have settled for, that love pierce the walls of their heart and lets the light flood in. Prayers for my mother, Susan, as she navigates her 8th month of long COVID. Prayers for my grandmother, Arlene, as she navigates old age and sickness. Prayers of protection for all the earth's wild places, all her animals, and the most vulnerable of her people. Prayers for all Native peoples under oppressive systems. Prayers of healing and support for my friend Jessica and her children as her husband, Father Stephen, travels through the bardos. Prayers for my collective relentless body, which is holding tension and conflict as we try to learn how to work together and our coping mechanisms come into conflict with each other as its members deal with chronic illness. Offering prayers for Cinema as she begins the end of life process. Prayers for me and that I recover from COVID with ease. Prayers for my friend Sandra. Prayers for Maureen, who passed recently. Prayers for my daughter, Atona, and her husband, Dan. Also prayers for his father, Abraham, who is navigating dementia, asking for forgiveness in his lucid moments. Prayers for his wife, Sarah. Prayers for all students where I intern that have navigated a suicide on campus this month. Prayers for my benefactors, seen and unseen, known and unknown. May I be protected while I traverse and hold so much. May all legal issues resolve with ease. Prayers to Kelly as they continue to navigate their healing journey. I wish them strength, and may they receive even just a fraction of the love that they give. Prayers to my brother and his partner who are struggling with severe substance use disorder. There are no resources available in the state where we live. I hope they find some light as they go through dark times. We're offering prayers for clarity while dealing with chronic health issues, prayers to be lifted from the depression that comes with these struggles. Prayers for all to deal with anger in productive and kind ways. Prayers for Leah and her health and healing from trauma, that she may be supported in the ways that her nervous system, mind, body, and soul will find helpful. Prayers for my nephew George and his ongoing struggle with schizophrenia. May he and my sister and his siblings be held as they all do their very best to move through each day. Prayers for the well-being of all of my elders, that they receive the care and nourishment they need. Prayers for my friend Sehun as he makes his way into the bardo, and for his family that are mourning his loss. Prayers for a favorable outcome in my son's hearing this Wednesday. Prayers for healing for my body as I await ultrasound results. Offering prayers for Alyssa and their job as residential counselor working with teenagers who have been through trauma in and out of the shelter and not getting the support that is needed. Prayers for the people of China, that their voices be heard and their hearts be held. Prayers for the man that tried to rape me this weekend. May he get the healing he needs to undo the violence and internalized misogyny that fuels him and all men, male-bodied people. May all men realize their connection to upholding misogyny and begin the work of addressing their trauma so all of us can be free from violence. Offering prayers for clean margins and a minor outpatient surgery on Friday to remove an extremely small tumor, which will mean no further treatment will be needed. Offering prayers for my friend Shava Bailey, who is very ill with high fever, for Shaya Eisenberg with degenerative spinal disease, that a pain blocker works to relieve his chronic pain, for Rita, Richard, Annalise, and Laura traveling to the Bardos, for Kelly's heart to stay in sinus rhythm, for healing energy for my grown children working with their small children on the autism spectrum, for my son's health and growth. Prayers for the children in my family as they grow into puberty towards the next phase of life. May they find support. May they process the trauma that the adults exposed them to. May they have moments of happiness and success and self-love. May we transform in healthy family patterns and dynamics. We're offering prayers for the Ukraine and everyone in the region. Prayers for Brittany, who other prisoners and all other prisoners with unreal sentences that in no way fit their crime. Prayers for Paul recovering from colon cancer and for all recovering from illness. Prayers for safe travels as I return to the U.S. from Southeast Asia. Gratitude for the opportunity to spend time resting, healing, and learning from deeply spiritual and harmonious societies. Prayers for Mani, who is dealing with a court case and prosecution for her role in Black Lives Matter and intervening in community police violence. Prayers for liberation for Indigenous people around the world, particularly Mayan communities in Central America, celebrating the start of the new year on Wednesday, and for the well-being of all Indigenous wisdom and timekeepers, that they may be successful in continuing to pass down the sacred wisdom from generation to generation. Offering prayers for me to continue in my practice of coming back to, remembering, and choosing the light, and not dismissing the role and need for acknowledgement and space for witnessing, holding the darkness. Prayers from my beloveds to remember and be reminded that there is a choice that they can make too, and for us to be in that journey together. Prayers for Rose's husband and children as she passed from this world 2 months ago, as they will celebrate her first birthday without her tomorrow. And we continue to lift up all the prayers that are unspoken, the prayers that reside in our hearts. We lift all of these prayers up to these beings of light. And we pray that the blessing of Medicine Buddha moves into these prayers, that we may see what we need to see the best outcomes that we want to see for those that we're offering prayers for, including prayers for ourselves, And also pray for all those in practice tonight, everyone, all of you here, that you experience the deepest well-being, happiness, and joy, safety, that you have access to the resources that you need to be well, that you're able to have what you need in order to support and to care for your families, your loved ones, and the communities that you're part of, that you may be sustainable and resilient, and that you're able to choose the joy instead of being consumed by the trauma. So as we turn our attention back to just a short period of mantra, just imagine that this energy, this light just radiates again into the situations, the prayers that we've offered, right? Letting the blessing and the extensions of the energies of our benefactors do this work for us, that we just let go and let the light of our benefactors of Medicine Buddha continue to radiate into the healing and the liberation of all beings. Oh, te adon begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumo yate soa. Te adon begenze, begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumo yate soa. Te adon begenze, begenze, ma begenze, Razumagarizuwa, Teatahum Beganze, Beganze, Mahabeganze, 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 Razumagarizuwa, Teatahum Beganze, 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 Razumagarizuwa, Teatahum Beganze, Beganze, Mahabeganze, Lazuma Teata Humbeyanze Beyanze Mahabeyanze 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 Lazuma Tahumbeyanze Beyanze Mahabeyanze Lazuma Teata Humbeyanze 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 Beyanze Mahabeyanze Lazuma Tahumbeyanze Beyanze Mahabeyanze Lazuma Teata Humbeyanze 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 Beyanze Mahabeyanze Lazuma And as we begin to transition out of the practice, we turn our attention back to our benefactors and light and energy and everything that's surrounding us. And we thank all of our benefactors for their love, their guidance. We offer a final prayer to our benefactors that they continue always to work on the behalf of our liberation and liberation of all beings. And you can continue just to hold this space, this visualization, this experience for as long as you want. So this doesn't have to end for you. But if you feel like there needs to be a little bit of closure, you can imagine that all of this light, everything, all the beings dissolve into this light, and that light is absorbed right back into your heart center. Then we'll just turn our attention to Shantideva's prayer, and we'll recite that 3 times to close our session out for today. That may appear in the chat box. All right. can, right there. Okay. And we'll recite this 3 times. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. May I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, may I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your practice. And I have some more events. Tomorrow, I'm doing a book talk with the Interdependence Project, and you can find that project or the links for that somewhere. I think it's on my website. It's hard for me to keep a record of tabs of like a lot of stuff right now, but you'll find it somewhere. And thank you again. It's all see you, most of you again on next Monday. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support. Yep, Karen, Eric, all our practice leaders. Thank you so much for holding the space as well. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.